Hello, welcome to Board, Deck and Dice. Today we are talking monuments. This is a prototype copy printed on a banner, which is a first for me, but it makes for a lovely playing surface. And this is a civilization action selection game coming to Kickstarter from Keep Exploring Games. In the game, one of the aims is to build up your monument of the title to its fifth and final form, and if you do so, you will trigger the end of the game. But every level you go up is going to be harder and harder to do. This is just a lovely little 3 printed model, but will also give you certain bonuses. All this is tracked through a fantastic, again, prototype player board that has spaces for everything. Each player board in the final game will come with a unique special ability which will help you be a bit more asymmetrical with your civilization. You will also get your own personal score deck, bonus deck, which will give you a unique setup and unique bonuses for every stage of your monument except the last one. On top of that, you will have unique scoring cards where you will have one area of scoring that gets you a bonus and one that gets you negative, less scoring points, or a potential punishment. So, for example, we have this one, which gives you 7 VPs per monument layer instead of 6, but when it comes to military power, you have to have 1 more military power to get the VP. So for everyone else, it's 3 military power, but for this player, it's 4 military power. That has a place on your board. When you complete a level of your monument, which to do so you must have your workers out on a certain number of, or you must have control of a certain number of hexes, and then pay a certain amount of resources. Resources work exactly the same way as scythe, as in when they're on they don't come into your possession on the player board, they stay on the actual board, and if you have control with a worker or an army of that hex, then you can use those resources no matter where they are on the map. So you will pay a certain amount of resources, you will lose a worker or 2, and then you will build the first, second, third, fourth or fifth layer of your monument. When you do, you will take a personal bonus, and then you will look through some general bonuses as well that get better as the game goes on. On top of that, you're going to have your quests, which you start with a quest, and as the game goes on, you can obtain other quests. Be warned though, quests will give you negative points should you not complete them, and there's no other bonus for completing them. It's just literally points on those things. So you have rivers on the board which you'll have to cross by building bridges, but bridges, just like boats, can be used by anyone. Boats can be used to transport your armies and your workers across the water, and you'll be using your meeples, which are your standard kind of sized people. They are your workers. You can upgrade them into army people who can attack and have an attack power. You can upgrade them into military air force, and that will give you scope to fly around the map attacking other people, and to a navy, which is slightly different to the boat. Whereas the boat can attack if it's got armies on, the navy has its own power in water. One of the special differences between the civilizations is one can use its navy to attack on land. To help you on land, you can build forts to defend your coasts, which give you extra power and scare people off. You can build houses to increase your population of workers. Of course, you must have 2 workers in that town to get jiggy with it. And then you can build factories which will produce resources whether you have a person there or not, if you choose that hex. Battle, your workers don't have to be useless. One of your things you can do is buy a weapon, and then that goes underneath one of your workers, giving them slight power in a land attack. Battle is resolved through dice. What you do is you count up your power for your armies, which is listed helpfully on your player board. So for example, we look down, we see an army has 3 power, so we would roll 3 dice for them unless they were joined in battle by anyone else. And then you take off your results. So I only rolled 1 here. Let's say rolling the defense is rolling 2, they have 2 power, they rolled 4, so there's a difference of 3. So then I would have to lose 3 powers worth of units from my board. So in this case I would just lose the army because he's worth 3 power, and then I don't have to round up anything. So that's a general overview of all the components. There's loads going on, but it all comes down to this hand of 10 cards which everyone has. They start on the red side, but you can upgrade them to the green side as one of your actions. So on your go, what you're going to do is play one of your cards to the discard pile and do what it says, or recover all your cards. So a very simple gameplay loop is going on here. These let you move, build buildings, including bridges and boats, upgrade cards for 2 resources, which they all have their own unique cost, but when you upgrade the upgrade card, then you can upgrade cards for only 1 resource. When you upgrade the movement card, you get to move 3 units instead of 2. When you upgrade the build your monument card, you get a discount as populate, production to produce stuff on the hexes, trade, drawing quest cards, attacking and training special units. Now, one of the really nice things about monuments is attack is not a given. In fact, before you can even train any attacking units, you need to take a bonus card that lets you do so. In our first game of monuments, I took one early, I was the eventual winner, but I did no attacking. I just took it as a precaution, and all my units that I put out were in order to scare people off rather than attack them. One of the players who came second, there was a tie, they didn't take a ability to train attacking units until they built their 3rd level of their wonder, so quite far into the game. And they did more attacking than anyone else, and they won about 50% of their battles, but they scored less than me in the end. So attacking is viable if you go in for it, but it's not needed, let's say. You can kind of turtle down in this game, down into a region, set up your forts and kind of try and protect your land. But eventually, because you're going to need to be in control of 10 for the 4th level of your monument and 12 hexes for the 5th level of your monument, you're going to have to get out of your land. You're going to have to get out of the region you start in. And so doing that earlier on is often advantageous, but you'll only be able to totally turtle in one game of this, because if you play with the same people again, they're just going to come out right, get their monument built quick. You can build the 1st level of the monument almost from turn 1, so they're going to be getting that ability to train units, and they're just going to come and attack you. So although turtling does exist in this game, I think it's only ever going to exist in one game if you play with the same crowd of players regularly. There is a lovely balance of ideas in this game, with the forts, the attacking, the fact that you can't attack, the uniqueness to each player mat through abilities and through scoring. And at first I was worried that that scoring would be rather unbalanced, but I had the one that I've had the one that I considered to be the worst in the first game I played, and I won by quite a long way. It let me focus. If I got quests, I get an extra VP for every 2 quests I complete, but I get an extra punishment for ones I didn't complete. However, quests are really well balanced, and you can choose whether or not to take them to some degree, especially with the higher level ones, which might be harder to do but come at the end of the game. The rivers are a pain in the early game. They are what separate you from hexes you want to get to, and you need to build bridges over them, which can then be used by anyone, but bridges only cost cost 1 wood and are relatively cheap. In this prototype, rivers are movable with these little wooden pieces, but in the final game I've been told that they're going to be printed onto the map. The map itself is clearly a kind of representation of, you can see the shapes of Europe and of the US, but they're going to neaten it up a little bit, so it might not be as realistically the shapes, but it will be clearer to see which spaces are water spaces, which spaces are resource producing spaces. But as it is in production, we found it quite clear. The only bit we struggled in was some of the water movement. So there's that. The one kind of critique that I've passed back to the developer was that for all the variation you have in the starting game, the abilities you can unlock through the bonuses for building your monument, generally you feel like there's a couple that are really strong and everyone goes for those. So although you start off different, you generally end up with the same bonuses and the same boons. And they're going to look into that and give it's not fair to say more exciting, but perhaps more varied bonuses in there. So the bonus choice was often obvious when you were taking from this deck. There was only a couple of times in the middle of the game when it was difficult. And it was only between 2 cards really at those times. So I'd love to see some real difficult choices, some real crunchy choices in this bonus deck that give you a real tough time, that if you leave that card in there, someone else is going to grab it and start stomping on you. I'd love to see that. Things like perhaps you can transport one army with an aeroplane, you know, paratroopers, that sort of thing. The system of this really clever system of 10 cards, essentially 20 cards because they're double-sided, and you will want to upgrade them, is super clever. It keeps a game that could be bogged down in player turns fast moving and snappy. Indeed, the only times the game slowed down was when people were building a next monument level and we kind of carry on playing while they chose their bonuses, because you get a bonus from this deck, then you have to choose one from this deck, and often the bonuses from this deck are quite there's quite a lot to them. Take 3 resources. Oh, which resources do I want? What do I want to build next? Take 4 quest cards. Choose at least one. Oh, how many do I want to keep? So most of the decisions came there. And what we did was we tended to just play on. But because the turns are so quick, everyone else is just playing a card and doing an action or taking their cards back up. It could get back around to that player, and this is in a 4-player game, before they'd finished taking all their monument bonuses. So it's an odd one that, because normal turns are so quick, when you do build your monument, the choosing of your bonuses is going to be, especially in your first games, not so much when you've played a few games, but it is going to take a little while to choose all those, and it feels longer because of the quickness and the sharpness of most turns. I have been super impressed with this game from Keep Exploring Games. I haven't liked all their games by any means, but when they hit it really well, and I feel like this is going to be a big attraction for people who want more Civ building than perhaps other games that have released recently. You are spreading over the map, you're building up your buildings, you're gathering your resources, deciding whether to be warfaring or not. It's not as civilization heavy as something like Through the Ages, but there are those elements there, and because it's got such a simple main mechanic and all the information you need is on your player sheet, including how the game scores, the game just flows super well. This has still got a lot of time in development, in production, but this is super exciting, and I'm super excited to see the finished components, the finished game, and how this grows from here. If you're at all interested in this kind of map-based area control, resource gathering, hand management game, then you're going to find a lot to like here. Check the description down below for the link to the Kickstarter as soon as it goes live, and thanks very much for watching Board Deck and Dice. We will see you next time.